This is going to be part 2 of passages from the book The Haunted Self on Structural Dissociation, Chapter 8. I have a collection for this book that you can access from my profile and see all of the videos I've done from this book. Presentification. Presentification is a complex human endeavor of simultaneously being and acting in the moment in a highly reflective manner. This multifaceted action includes the experience of being present. We are present when we synthesize and personify current internal and external stimuli that are critical for our current interests and adapt our subsequent mental and behavioral actions accordingly. Furthermore, when we experience ourselves as being present, we have connected our past and future to the here and now. Indeed, presentification is more than being aware of the present moment. It involves our creation of the present moment from a synthesis of personified experiences stretched over time and situations from the past, the present, and the projected future. Ultimately, presentification is our construction of context and meaning of the present moment within our personal history. Indeed, the function of presentification is to help us organize and change our actions and sometimes our sense of who we are. It allows us to form reflective beliefs and act with deliberation, conviction, conscience, and purpose to grasp our reality to the maximum and act adaptively because of it. In other words, we must engage in presentification to adapt and evolve and to achieve a complex balance between stability and flexibility within our personality. As a most complex action, presentification requires our highest levels of mental energy and efficiency. Thus, this action disappears easily and often when we are stressed or distracted. It is our highest achievement to sustain presentification both in the moment and over the course of life, and is an ultimate goal of therapy with traumatized individuals. Core presentification. Core presentification is the action of being present in the moment. It includes making an account of our present action and experience, as being here and now, and as being real. Core presentification takes a lot of mental energy and efficiency. It is not easy to pay attention to the stimuli and actions that really matter to us in the present moment without wandering off into the past or future. Core presentification not only includes self-awareness, but heightened conscious awareness of what surrounds us and ultimately involves our reflective response to our mindfulness. Extended presentification occurs across time and situations. It requires our highest mental energy and efficiency to sustain because we must integrate and condense massive amounts of experience from our entire life, different memories, affects, beliefs, senses of self, and various roles, relationships, action tendencies, and action systems. In extended presentification, we coordinate our actions not only with the external world, but with the whole of our personality. Of course, our ability to be present naturally waxes and wanes. Even at best, it is not a steady state over time, but we must be present enough of the time to be able to bridge those times when we are not very present. We thus link enough of our experience so that it is relatively cohesive to us, and as a result, our personality is cohesive. This is the function of extended presentification. It orients us in time and space and to our personal existence. It is about knowing how our interoceptive and extroceptive present, our perceived internal and external world, is embedded in our past and future. We thus make an account of ourselves and our history over time and act accordingly. It is through both extended presentification and extended personification that we take responsibility for our past, present, and future actions. The lack of presentification and personification in survivors. Problems with presentification inherently involve problems with synthesis and personification, at least to a degree, as the latter two are necessary for the former to occur. A major obstacle to presentification is pathological or chronic alterations in the field and level of consciousness, a problem endemic to survivors. If survivors do not adequately synthesize and personify an experience, are not paying attention to the moment, are spaced out, depersonalized, foggy, or confused, it is impossible for them to be fully present. In other words, survivors often are unable to engage in the mental actions of core presentification and thus be adaptive. It is also impossible to be present when survivors are fixated in the past. EPs often have such a severe lack of presentification that they are not even aware of the real present, much less able to act adaptively in response to it. They have their own anachronistic sense of the present that involves too much of the past. Simultaneously, they also have a sense of self that excludes or only partially includes the sense of self experienced by other parts of the personality, a failure in personification. When survivors as EP re-experience a traumatic memory, they have a sense of personal existence across a limited stretch of time, fixated in the past that they perceive as the present, but neither that experience nor that sense of self is integrated with the present. Survivors as ANP are often not able to fully be in the moment either because they are avoiding internal and external reminders of the trauma, again resulting in difficulties with synthesis. When intrusions of traumatic memories and EPs occur, their ability to be present becomes more limited. When survivors cannot tolerate certain stimuli, such as a feeling or a memory or the sight of someone who reminds them of their perpetrator, they will not be able to include these in their core and extended personification and presentification. Instead, these stimuli are avoided, and survivors will engage in substitute actions to continue the avoidance. This is non-realization. Experiential avoidance can be distinguished in synthesis, personification, and presentification. In avoidance of synthesis, survivors as ANP or EP avoid including particular perceptions. For example, dissociative parts may believe, I do not have any breasts, or that never happened, or I do not feel anger. When they avoid personification of what has been synthesized, they may say, these breasts exist, but they feel as though they are not mine. Or that happened, but not to me. It happened to someone else. Or that anger exists, but it belongs to that other part, not to me. Avoidance of presentification, which includes failures in synthesis and personification, might lead them to say, since I do not have breasts, or they are not mine, I do not need to have mammograms. Or whether I was abused or not, it has no impact on me in the present. Or I am not responsible for hitting someone because anger doesn't belong to me. A prerequisite for extended personification and presentification is knowing that the past and our future are related to but distinct from the present, which is our current reality. This capacity is often impaired in trauma survivors, both in terms of organizing a timeline of their experiences and in terms of knowing what is real in this moment. Terr, T-E-R-R, has noted that time sense is a relatively recent evolutionary acquisition and as such is readily disrupted by traumatizing experiences. In order to adapt, we must organize our experiences such that the actual present feels the most real and relevant in the moment, and the nearby past and future feel somewhat less real. This perception is most adaptive because we can only act in the actual present. The most common time distortion in survivors is the re-experiencing of the past as the present. Some patients may also distort present time so that it is condensed or expanded. For example, they may say, I was working and thought only an hour had passed, but it was nearly all day. Some patients have no sense of time. In order to know what is most relevant and real, we create synthesis of our experiences in the present, our recollections of the immediate past, and our ideas about the immediate future that include a stable sense of self. I am all of me. I am my past, my present, and my future. However, core and extended personification may occur without core and extended presentification, without an accurate recognition of the real present. Instead, as EPs, survivors may engage in a limited degree of core and extended personification, but confuse the experience as the real present. In other words, they confound the past and the present. What we regard as more or less real in the moment depends on what seems to be the most adaptive for us to attend to in a given internal and external environment, and is mediated by action systems. For example, a mother with a new baby is strongly mediated by attachment and caregiving. Her feelings of intense love and protection thus help her to perceive her baby's needs in the middle of the night as the most pressing, the most real, and her own need for rest as secondary, somewhat less real in the moment. Chronic activation of defense also shapes our view of reality. Once we have been exposed to major traumatizing events, the world never seems quite the same again. Danger becomes more real and possible, and we may become more prone to engage quickly and easily in defense. Healthy people can voluntarily and temporarily change the sense of present reality in accordance with specific goals that they have in mind. For example, when individuals choose to remember a difficult event, they may weave a narrative that evokes the reality of that past event to a greater or lesser extent. If they are relating the story to a relative stranger, a lower degree of reality would be more appropriate. They would choose to feel more emotionally distant from the experience. However, if they are relating the story to a therapist in order to resolve some unfinished business, a more intense and thus higher degree of reality would be appropriate. There is an element of conscious intent and manipulation inherent in this process, and a healthy individual rarely experiences confusion in time sequence and does not, therefore, actually confuse the past and the present. Survivors, however, may be too depersonalized to experience something as real, or may be too caught up in a past experience. Genet distinguished two basic ways in which patients manifest their disturbance of time and consequent reality. They place their accounts of reality too high, or they make them too low in the hierarchy of degrees of reality. For example, when a survivor incorrectly believes that she is bad and dirty, this becomes her reality. She places this incorrect account of reality too high in her experience. She also may believe that no one likes her, despite the objective reality that people actually find her delightful. She places this account of reality too low. The example illustrates that when one account is too high, such as I am bad, it follows that another account, such as people find me likable, will automatically be too low. And when one dissociative part places an account of an event too high, such as an EP who believes she is still in great danger, usually another part places an account of the same event too low in the hierarchy, such as an ANP who believes that she wasn't really abused. Placing the account of reality too low or too high are major forms of non-realization. Misplaced accounts of reality in EPs. EPs typically place traumatic memories and related beliefs so high on the hierarchy of degrees of reality that these memories are far more real to them than the actual present, which they usually place too low in the hierarchy. Misplaced accounts of reality in EPs relate to their limited mental efficiency, as well as a narrow field of consciousness and the limited range of action systems that mediate their perceptions, emotions, cognitions, and behavioral actions. These restrictions impede the scope and quality of their perception motor action cycles, and thus limit their capacity for presentification. Such parts may also confuse the reality of the imagined future. It becomes a mirror of the past. Even when they no longer live with a perpetrator, or when the perpetrator has passed away, fearful EPs tend to be focused on an imagined future that contains the past, such as, Daddy is going to hurt me. Depressed EPs are typically focused on the miserable past, but do not envision much, if any, future. Some EPs describe themselves as unalive. For them, a future cannot be imagined at all. Many subjective physical and emotional characteristics of EPs are placed on their misperception of reality. They experience themselves as how they were in the past. They experience themselves as talking, behaving, thinking, looking, and feeling as they did in the past. Or they may experience themselves as being what they fantasize themselves to be, such as, I am Superman, or I can never get hurt. In short, dissociative parts commonly use these ideas and fantasies as substitutes for higher order actions that are beyond them, such as realization of the trauma. Misplaced accounts of reality in ANPs. While EPs experience the past as too real, ANPs experience the past as not real enough. Patients' ANP may perceive the past as vague, fragmentary, or non-existent, or as a history that just does not pertain to them. They lack personification of their past. Non-realization of the past can take a number of forms, with the most severe and pervasive being complete amnesia. The past is not real because it does not exist. A less extreme form characterizes many ANPs who experience their past as existing but not pertaining to them or not as actual reality. For example, I know it happened, but it doesn't feel like it happened to me. Or I just don't feel anything about it, or it feels like a dream. Thus, they place accounts of their past, including the traumatic experiences, too low on the hierarchy in degrees of reality. Many survivors sense a foreshortened future. They lack the mental efficiency required for extended presentification. They cannot make accurate predictions regarding the near or more distant future. Some ANPs find it very difficult to plan their actions for more than a few hours ahead. Other ANPs cannot imagine a more remote personal future. and believe that they will not live very long. For AMPs who frequently experience the intrusions of EPs, the future may feel dreadful or hopeless, or indistinguishable from their traumatic past. This experience stems from a lack of differentiation of the current reality of the past, present, and future. That's it for Chapter 8.